Synthetic substitution. Synthetic substitution itself is the only new vocabulary, but make sure you're really familiar with all of those other ones. I want you to think about, what does synthetic substitution do? What does it get you? What does your answer mean? We're going to use it for something different later, so it's important that you know when you do what we're doing today, what does that get you? Make sure you know all the steps. There's a couple common mistakes people make. And think about it. This is an opinion piece. What do you see as the pros and cons of it? So what is synthetic substitution? It's a method of doing what this says that you might find easier than just direct substitution. We'll do direct substitution first. And since I'm using one where we're saying evaluate for x equals -1, -1 is not a big deal. We're not going to have huge numbers. But I want you to think about, what would this be like if the number was, -10 or 20 or something. Even if you're using a calculator, which you won't be doing very often, right? It's just saying plug it in and do the math. But we have to plug it in to each of these places. This is a longish polynomial function, and not the biggest one we'll see. So we have to do all this math. So we have to make sure we follow the order of operations and do our exponents first. So it'd be 6 times 1, because if we have an even exponent, that's going to be a positive 1, minus -1, because we have an odd exponent, plus 3 times positive 1, plus 5 plus 9. We got 6 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 9. And if we do all that, 10, 15, 24. So it might not seem like that big a deal because I used a -1. But if I was doing a 4 or a 5 and you had to think about all those things to the 4th power, not all that fun. So what does synthetic substitution look like? It takes up a lot less room. I'm just going to write 6, -1, 3, -5, 9. Now see where you think those came from. Look at the problem. Right? They're just the coefficients of each of the terms with the constant on the end. I'm going to stick this out here. So it kind of looks like upside down division. There's some similarities and some differences. The first thing we're going to do is just bring down this number and write it on the outside. And then we're going to multiply that -1 times what we have on the bottom there, times 6. -1 times 6, -6. Now we're going to add. So it's a little different from division. Think about it's kind of upside down division. On division you would subtract. Here we're going to add -1 minus 6, -7, multiply -7 times -1, positive 7, add 10, -1 times positive 10, -10, add -15, multiply positive 15, that's a 15, that's an ugly 15, and then we add. So we get positive 24. So that's the same answer. That's using synthetic substitution. So make sure you write down what you need to make these steps make sense to you. Multiply, add, bring it up, multiply. Well, in any case, if this makes sense to you to put these in there, but what the biggest thing people forget is they forget that it's add, not subtract. That's the big difference between this and division. So here's another polynomial function to evaluate. So I'm going to find g of -3, and I'm going to just use synthetic substitution. Now, a couple things we got to know is it must be in standard form. meaning the highest exponent has to come first. They have to be in descending order. And this one, if you notice, it's missing a term. We must insert zeros. We have to put zeros in for missing terms. So what term is missing in this one? Well, we start with x to the third, so we start with a 1. We don't have an x to the second, right? We're missing x squared. There's no x squared term, so we need a 0. And then we have an x term, and we have a constant. Especially if you're missing a constant, it's real easy to forget it. You still need that 1 on the end. All right. What are we going to put on the outside? -3. And then we bring this first guy down. So 1 times -3, -3, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Just that easy. And again, since this is -3, I'm not going to write down the direct substitution, but I can double check it. Remember, if you know how to do direct and you forget how to do synthetic when you're told to do synthetic, you can always do direct as a double check. -3 cubed is -27, plus 24 is -3, plus 6 is 3. Yeah, we did it right. So synthetic substitution is the only new vocab. Make sure you know all the rest of those. And again, the last one's an opinion. What do you think is better about it? What do you think is worse about it?